Thank you for tuning in to another episode of our Friday Best Ball stream hosted on Underdog Fantasy. We've got a little bit of data coming out now where we're looking at some risers, we're looking at some fallers, and I'm joined today by MBFL's Dwain McFarland. Dwain, we've done a lot of shows together in the past. I believe this is the first time that we've ever done a draft stream together, though.
Yeah, I think it is. Man, that's tripping me up. MBFL. Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, but like it made sense. But I was like MBFL. Like,
Did you guys not call it that? I mean, that's what I always see MBFL on social media. So that's
no. I don't think of it that way. But yes, you're right. So Fantasy Life is what I think of. But you're right. It's MBFL.
And you do the
Matthew Berry Friends for Life. Like, that's
exactly. Yeah. And you do a lot over there. I mean, most notably the utilization report, which is great, but you're doing a lot of other stuff over there as well, right?
Yeah. So right now it's that time of year where I'm spending a lot of time focusing on data and product, and then I'll really be starting to ramp my content stuff back up. I did a ton of content, and research for the NFL draft. Then I put all that out. I did the same thing for free agency, but like the last 3 to 4 weeks, if you haven't seen me tweeting much or, articles coming out, it's because I've been really going through all the research and everything for our tools and the other things that we want to do to have in season ready for folks that'll be new this year. And we have a lot of awesome new stuff coming. So yeah, been super busy, but when I'm going on vacation next week, when I get back, I'll be hitting the ground, with a lot more analysis and content and stuff like that starting to come out again.
Yep, I get it, man. I got back from Hawaii on Sunday, and it's like, all right, pedal to the metal from here until the Super Bowl, basically. We don't really get much time off. But we're going to hop in this BBM draft right now. Sometimes it fills immediately. Sometimes we got to wait a minute. So looks like this one's going to kick off immediately. Already filled up here. So I'll ask you the same question I asked just about everybody. Do you have a specific spot that you like drafting from this year?
I just like getting to mix it up. You know how it goes. Sometimes you're like, Dad, gummit, pick 11 again, like 4 times in a row. Although you can get in a groove and you remember how your last draft went, how you can make it a little bit different. I really like mixing it up, to be honest. I don't have a spot where I think is my absolute favorite. There are years where I feel like there are big cliffs if you are picking in a certain spot. I could say maybe towards the end of the 3rd round, I definitely feel like you start to hit a cliff the reason I know is because I suddenly think, okay, maybe I'll take a quarterback. That's how I know, like I hit, I've hit a tier break, on the wide receivers, running backs, or if you start thinking about the tight end as well. So I would say maybe the end of that, 3rd round. So I would say late position maybe is my least favorite, but man, that's the only way you really get Marvin Harrison and some of these other guys, Jahmyr Gibbs. So I still want exposure to those players.
I was just talking with Jeff Bell a couple of days ago and said that start that you can get at the end of the 1-2 turn, if you're able to get Puka Nacua and Marvin Harrison Jr., feels a lot like last year when you were able to get CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown to start your draft, where you've got 2 guys that have sky-high potential. They've got the Week 17 correlation. But let's talk through it right here. Coming up at 106. I'm very much so would just take whoever falls to you in the 1st round. I don't know if you've got any strong flag plants here. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Well,
I usually skip Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase is there? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's an easy decision. You like when they make the choice for us, right?
Yeah. Now, I will say I've been taking Bijan and Breece Hall quite a bit over Jefferson. I'm going to be underweight Jefferson. I know that could sound like the most idiotic thing ever at the end of the year, and he could still certainly win you a ton of dough in Week 17. But I think people are underestimating what's going to happen to this passing attack this year. I think everybody wants to blanket over it. Well, it's Kevin O'Connell, man. Look at what Nick Mullins did last year. Well, Nick Mullins threw for 260 yards per game in San Francisco, man. Like, the dude was basically already Kirk Cousins, but very turnover prone. You're about to see a 215 to 220 yards per game passing attack. In my opinion, that's the most likely outcome for the Vikes. That doesn't mean that Justin Jefferson's not good. He's still my wide receiver 5. But, man, I think Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson could break fantasy.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. When you start looking at projections, they project pretty similarly to Christian McCaffrey, and you don't have to pay with the 101 to get either of them. So, yeah, I think when I'm on these streams specifically, I try to stick close to ADP because I feel like that kind of gets me out of my comfort zone a little bit, helps kind of show some different builds here. But the 2 first-round kind of flag plants that I'm okay with, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown ahead of Justin Jefferson.
I do too.
And then I have A.J. Brown ahead of Puka Nacua. And they're both close. I'm not moving these guys 4 spots up my rankings. Those are just the 2 that I'm kind of okay flip-flopping here and there.
Yeah, I think those are both very reasonable. And I'm borderline with Puka and AJ Brown. I will say about a month ago, I was drafting the hell out of AJ Brown just because I kind of thought, man, this whole thing of being able to go AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts is probably not going to last.
Yep.
And look what's happened. Devonta Smith is like climbing towards the second round now. Now, as the casual drafters start to influx back in, that might push Devonta back down but then quarterbacks are going to go up, and you might not be able to get Jalen Hurts. So I kind of try to think through things like that. You had a really good tweet. I don't know, a while back, is probably a month or two ago, but you were talking about the same thing with Mahomes, where you're like, man, I don't know how long we're going to be able to get Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy. Like, and look, it's harder to do now. Now, if you want to force that, you've got to really do it at the 3-4 term with Mahomes and one of those wide receivers, or if Kelce falls to you and then coming back Mahomes. And then you're not getting Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy, most likely. Now you can tack on Rashee Rice, which I like doing right now. But yeah, I try to think through those things too, and how the landscape might change my ability to create those super stacks later.
Now, here we up with our next pick. I know where I'm going here typically.
I don't want Saquon Barkley, but it's your show, bro.
No, this is your show, all right? I'm just hosting it. This is the Dwain McFarland show. So Saquon Barkley, Devontae Adams, Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle, Mike Evans. Who do you want here?
I'm typically going Nico here.
Love it.
But I'm willing to look at one of the other wide receivers. I'm basically just out on Saquon right there.
Talk me through that a little bit, because Saquon's a guy that I have seen falling, and he's not a guy that I'm reaching for ahead of ADP, but anytime I can get Saquon after or below ADP, I do. And I feel like right now, we talk about how the landscape changes a little bit. So right now, we've got a lot of these sharps in here, right, that love drafting wide receivers early. So I know it's like technically minus EV, you're not supposed to do it, but I've done so many drafts recently where I am walking out with 3 stud running backs with my first 4 or 5 picks, because I know that those builds are going to be impossible a month or two from now when the casual drafters start plugging in. When your buddy Joe Schmo joins a draft a month from now and he sees Saquon Barkley at the 1-2 turn, he's probably going to reach for a guy like that. So I'm okay taking him in the mid-second right now, just because I don't expect that to maintain throughout the offseason. Tell me why you are, I don't want to say out on Saquon Barkley, but why you wouldn't take him in the middle of the second.
Yeah, I'm like you. My exposure to Saquon is going to be when he's past ADP by probably 3 to 4 picks. So when I'm picking down at the end of the second round and he makes it to me, those are typically the drafts where I will go ahead and take him. And sometimes it works out where that's when you have CD Lamb. And so that's just kind of a bonus tiebreaker kind of thing. You get the week 17 bring back. Don't think about that stuff too much in the very early rounds. But I just see Saquon as a back that's aging. A lot of his underlying metrics tell us he's not what he used to be. And I don't expect him to be that involved in the passing game because of Jalen Hurts scrambling. And they've got A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas freaking Goedert.
True.
I mean, Saquon's going to be 4th on the checklist. And his best seasons have come when he's really been that involved as a receiver. And obviously, we know the tush-push stuff could be a real problem. No quarterback gets as many carries inside the 5. Well, Josh Allen got close last year, but quarterbacks don't get that. But they do in Philadelphia. So that really hurts Saquon. And I don't expect them to fully change that. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Kelce. Does that change the dynamics there? It could, but I think that's a lot of things. I think Saquon should be a 3rd or 4th round pick, to be honest.
Oh, wow. Well, we have plenty of running back value falling right here. Here we are coming up at pick 30.
What's the difference between Saquon Barkley really and Josh Jacobs?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm with you.
People have sharpened on Jacobs, but we're not on Barkley yet. So
here we are. Pick 30.
Achane's there. Absolutely.
Yeah. Talk me through that one, because that's a pretty easy one for me. And it's funny, we talk about these sliding running backs that we see at this point in the offseason. Those sliding running backs typically are your aging guys that project for a lot of volume. You see Saquon Barkley sliding. You see Derrick Henry sliding. You see Josh Jacobs sliding. It's very rare to see Achane, a year 2 guy who just put up the peripherals that he did on this offense, to fall that below ADP.
Right. And the argument against Achane is, he's going to regress. And that's true. Like, it's going to be hard for him to keep up the yards per carry and all those things. But it's not like we haven't seen very explosive backs of his archetype stay around a 5 or 6 yards per carry, especially when they're in a little bit more of a limited role. We saw it with Jamal Charles. The other thing you hear is, he's too small. Well, Austin Eckler was too small when he got to the league. And if you're saying that about Achane, well, what are you saying about Jahmyr Gibbs, who you're willing to take at the 1-2 turn? In my opinion, Achane is Jahmyr Gibbs. You're getting him a round and a half later Now he's got a little bit more competition, I guess. I don't even think you can't say that. I think David Montgomery is actually stronger competition at his age than Raheem Mostert. So when I look, the other thing that I find really interesting,
Jalen Wright is the guy that I might be more concerned about than a 32-year-old Raheem Mostert.
Maybe, but he's a 4th-round pick. So how often do those guys hit? Not often. Like if we go do the research, they don't often. It usually takes an injury for a 4th-round pick to make a big difference. So I do think that could potentially cap it, where if Mostert went down, does Jalen Wright step into some of that Mostert role and maybe Achane doesn't get it all? My biggest thing is this. I spent a ton of time this offseason, again, around the tools and things we're building, really going back and researching stability of data points year over year over year over year. And the thing that we are the worst at is forecasting a lot of these attempt shares and things like that. We try to get it right. People, I think, do a good job generally of trying to focus on the right things. But what would you do, Dave, if we get to the end of week 3 and we're looking at the utilization report and it's like, holy crap, Devon Achane just got 60% of the snaps. I mean, dude, he'll be a top 3 running back if that happens. And what's funny, people will immediately jump in and go, man, you're an idiot. That's never happening. Well, you know what? People have said that about small backs time and time again. And if they're really good, a lot of them do end up working their way into a bigger role. I get it. That's why we're not taking him in round 1, because he's smaller, but the upside is undeniable. And you can't sit there and tell me that there's a guarantee that he's not going to have a larger role than last year. And oh, by the way, he was really good already in a limited role. So I think Achane is, man, just pure upside in my opinion, especially when you get him in the middle of round 3. That's beautiful.
Yeah, you talk about kind of the comp to Jamal Charles. I see a lot of Chris Johnson as well, a guy who really only needs to touch the ball like 8 to 12 times a game. Chris Johnson's
another great one, man. Great pull.
Yeah, like 8 to 12 touches is really all you need from Achane with the way that they're able to make these big holes, get him outside, his game-breaking speed. Love that pick. So here we are up again, pick 43.
Come on, Tank Dell. Come on, Tank Dell. Come on, Tank Dell. Come on. Yes.
Easy one right there. So,
dude, we're building a monster. I hope I'm splitting this with you. We're winning it.
Look at all these. I mean, Tank Dell, ADP of 36, and he just fell to us at 43.
Yeah,
this is the situation I love being in, where I'm a pick away, and I see Tank Dell and T. Higgins, 2 of my favorite picks this year. So even if Tank Dell went, I'd be more than happy to fall back on T. Higgins. But tell me why you're this excited.
2 more explosive young players than Achane and Tank Dell? I don't think so, man. Like, I get it. Smaller guys got to stay healthy. 100%. But like, this is the kind of team that could like completely blow the freaking roof off. You've now set yourself up for a potential bring back or coming back and stacking Stroud with them in the next round. It's a good possibility unless the Diggs drafter wants to do it. And I don't even know which side of the draft they're on us. Diggs, did he go before or after us? If you look at
I'm checking right now, CJ Stroud is an ADP of 58. If we pull
Stroud has a good chance to be here. And if he,
so 54, so we take him about 4 spots ahead of ADP.
So if the Diggs owner does not draft him, and he's not gonna, he just drafted Lamar.
He just took Lamar. So
we could try to push Stroud.
I was gonna say we might
on the other side of us
Stroud all the way to 67.
Nobody has a Houston player. Now I will tell you, as soon as you do that, someone's just going to take him anyway. So probably. I usually will just go ahead and take him. I think the thing that would cause me to not take Stroud would be if Mark Andrews was there. He won't be, because I guarantee you the Lamar Jackson drafter is trying to set it up.
Yeah.
And he did it wrong, by the way. If you're trying to set that up with Lamar, you go Andrews first. Exactly, and then everybody's like, oh man, I can't stack Lamar Jackson. I'm not taking him now. You don't have to stack a quarterback like Lamar Jackson. We want to stack, but you can still be successful. So yeah, if Andrews makes it back, man, we would be balling.
So here we are up in a few picks. Do you think we reach for CJ Stroud here? Because he has been an ADP faller as well. He's the guy that's not getting drafted as high as he was. I think, reaching a few spots for the stack, I'm A-okay doing it. We could probably push out until 67, though, and I'd say there's probably about a 50-50 chance that we get him there.
So,
because nobody here is really jumping out to me. I like Hollywood Brown. Travis Etienne would be a good value if he falls to us, but where's your head at in a spot like this where you have to reach just a few spots to get that double stack?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. When you're stacking, you can honestly throw ADP a bit out the window, and ADP is not linear, right? It's logarithmic, right. So it matters less and less yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. I haven't heard
well,
that.
It's a bent curve, right? It's not a straight line. So anyway, everybody's probably like, what the hell is he talking about? Sorry. But yeah, I typically, unless there's something that's really enticing, I just complete my stack because we've already made this bet right on this team. And we want in this world, this, as Pete Overzet likes to say, in the alternate universe you have now created in these first few rounds, like, what are you hoping for? Well, we're hoping for an astronomical season from Houston. So
offense. Yeah.
The thing that could get me off of it would be taking an elite tight end like Dalton Kincaid a little bit past his
Andrew
ADP.
slid, but there's nobody here. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
Jaden Reed, James Cook. I'm not taking those guys ahead of the quarterback that we need for a sack. I think the one guy that I maybe would have entertained is Hollywood Brown. He's been my most drafted wide receiver so far. Just wrote an article on him. Big fan of his outlook in Kansas City. But yeah, I think this is a fantastic start so far. So we got CJ Stroud and we got a double stack with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. We've got Devon Achane and then, of course, a Jamar Chase kicker here just to make it even a little bit more fun. Now, obviously, we didn't get Stephon Diggs here. Next week, Alfredo Brown and I, we're doing an episode where we're going to talk about some ambiguous team situations. And one of those situations that we're going to talk about is the Houston Texans wide receiver trio, where all these guys are going pretty tight in ADP. Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell. So kind of talk me through, I don't know if you've done your projections yet for the season.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of what you expect from this Houston Tech, because all of these guys are so versatile. They can line up in the slot. They can line up out wide. They can win inside, outside, short, deep. They can do so many of the same things. I personally think ADP has it wrong, but let me know what you think about the Texans.
I think ADP could easily be wrong. I think that anyone that tells you they have an exact line on how this receiver room is going to finish, they're just not being honest with themselves. It could really be anything. It could be Diggs 1. It could be Collins 1. It could be Tank Dell 1. And I know, like, look, we love to dig into what happened last year, but that's not always predictive of next year. And the biggest thing, like, people look at is, oh, well, the routes were this way last year. Well, guess what? In season, when you're looking rolling four over rolling four and you're trying to project for your season, routes are the most stable thing for wide receivers, route participation rates. But year over year, they're not as predictive as, your targets, as your air yards, as all of those other things. So you really need to try to lean in the talent. And we have really 3 talented players. And even though Diggs slipped last year, he still earned the biggest thing you have to show me you still have talent, and that's targets. And so it would not surprise me if Stephon Diggs was the top guy. So I've been trying to honestly mix them up, Dave. And what I try to do when I'm setting up my CJ Stroud stuff or letting the CJ Stroud thing happen, I don't go for all 3, but I'll play with 2 of them. I'll go, okay, I got Diggs and Dell, and that one's a little easier to do. Or I got Nico and Diggs, or I got Nico and Dell, kind of like we did. So, and then you get the contingency value, right? If you get the right mix, one of these guys goes down for 4 or 5 games. And if it's in week 16 and 17, you're going to be thinking, oh my God, like this is just a great thing.
We got 12 seconds on the clock here. Joe Mixon fits in with the Houston stack that we've built. We've also got Rome Odunze, George Kittle, Jordan Addison. Who are you going with here?
I lean to the receiver, man, but I'm okay with Mixon past ADP. I will say I was just talking with Mike Leone this week about this and how, I know people talk about the idea that fragile RB builds don't work anymore. Well, the historical way you had to deal with fragile RB builds, you had to take, 3 running backs in like the first 4 rounds, and then essentially you're done at running back.
Right.
Well, if you look at the way the ADP landscape has shifted, that could now be more of a build like
backs in like rounds 3, 5, and 7, and still get 3 very
even
good
into round
backs.
8 because you can get James Conner and Raheem Mostert, and sometimes those guys fall into round 9. So the way the landscape has shifted, like the way you think about fragile, I think is a little bit different. Now you could also still just wait even further, and think about, and that impacts your 0 RB builds as well. So really the way ADP is shaping out, like, and shifting, it impacts the way you should be thinking about all those strategies. But for fragile, I don't mind that here. And it's actually, Hayden Winks had a really good post yesterday using Mike Clay's projections saying, hey, these 2v2s and 3v3s, like what's potentially the better way to go based on projections and what you're giving up in the next 2 to 4 rounds at that same position. And it highlighted something that I've been thinking a lot about, which is, man, really in rounds 4, 5, and 6, there's a lot of potential value at running back right now. Because those are guys that we used to draft in rounds 2 and 3 that are going in rounds 4, 5, and 6.
And I don't even know if you can call it the running back dead zone at this point because they've been pushed so far down draft boards that they kind of make for pretty good values. I feel like ADP has kind of figured it out a little bit this year. Like you can go pretty tight to ADP and feel good about a lot of your picks. But
the dead zone has shifted. The dead zone is really, the best way to think about dead zone, in my opinion, is you just don't want to draft pure projected volume backs all the time because we know how flaky that can be, especially for inefficient guys. But the most predictive thing year over year for running backs, guess what it is? It's their rushing attempts. It's not their yards after contact, missed tackle
Rushing
scores.
yards
Those
over
things are all
expectation.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, rushing yards over expectation has zero correlation to future fantasy points. Like it might as
I don't
well
want to
not even
be
exist.
fighting against the clock here, so let's talk through this.
Oh
20
yeah,
seconds
my
left.
bad.
David Montgomery, Evan
No,
Ingram, Christian
I'm
Watson,
going
Aaron Jones.
Watson or Rashee Rice, one of those two.
Yeah, for me, it was Deontay Johnson or Christian Watson. Deontay Johnson went the pick before us.
Yeah,
Christian
Deontay's
Watson,
my most drafted wide receiver.
Yeah, he's up there for me. I think he's 3 or 4. I forget exactly, but I've been drafting a lot of him. But Christian Watson is a guy that I got to admit, when I first started doing these drafts, I was just glossing over Christian Watson's name, not thinking twice about it.
Just
and then
needs to be healthy. That's all, man.
That's it.
That
Yeah. I mean, you're making a bet on the health more than anything else. We want to be in on this Packers offense. I mean, when I start looking at the Packers team, there's 11 players that I'd be okay drafting from Green Bay this year. You look, they've got the 2 tight ends. I'll even go as deep as like Bo Melton on a round 18 pick if I want to. I want exposure to this team. And Jaden Reed, he's got some red flags in his profile. Dontavian Wicks has some red flags in his profile. If there's one guy that can really put it together and be the absolute wide receiver one on this team is Watson. And I feel like I was foolish to kind of dismiss it early in the offseason. But like I said, just comes down to health. It's as simple as that. If he's healthy, he's going to be good. That, of course, is just a big question. I'm sure you saw the thing about his legs being asymmetrical and him like
so
building
wild,
up,
man.
building up hamstring muscle in one leg, so he's a little bit more symmetrical. How do you get into year 3 in the NFL before you finally figure that out?
I don't know, but I'm glad he's figuring it out, and I hope it makes the difference. Last year, target shares for Packers when you had Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs on the field, only 147 routes, so kind of take it a little bit with a grain of salt. But Watson, 27%, man. Yeah. Reed, 22%. Dobbs, 18%. So, look, where you're getting him now, and a lot of people, it's so funny. I will hear them, oh, he's just Gabe Davis. No, he's not, guys. No. He earns so many more targets. He's more explosive. Like, people that say he's Gabe Davis, they're just dead freaking wrong. Gabe Davis was never able to earn targets with or without Stephon Diggs on the field. Just 2 totally different players. So, yeah,
but they are both big and fast, Dwayne. That's about where
I know. They're big and fast. Whatever.
And I believe Christian Watson's also dropped a few passes in his career. So that's... if that's as deep as you're looking, big, fast, and has dropped the occasional pass, yeah, they're pretty much the same player.
Exactly. Yeah, I know.
So here we are again, coming up quickly here. DeAndre Swift, Zach Moss. This is when you start really, and this is why you want to load up on those wide receivers early, because it gets bleak.
Yeah, I really like Tyler Lockett here. Honestly, just because the cliff that's about to happen. Tyler Lockett is in my top 5 most drafted. I really like Seattle. I think Seattle. Khalil, I think Shakir. Seattle's an underrated offense, to be honest. I know Lockett's 32, but the target earning was still the same last year. There's a really good thread by Jacob Gibbs yesterday that kind of triggered me to go in and do even some more research last night I've been thinking about. But talking about potential cliffs for some of these older guys, and he did a good job looking at first downs per route run and looking at yards per route run, but at a man level, right? And trying to, say, okay, what do these guys look like at the man level? Because Matt Harmon's done some great work in reception perception. The main thing he talks about is, hey, against man and man press coverage, those are kind of the indicators that guys may be starting to slip. So I went in and pulled all that data, and the problem is, it's just not super predictive. Like year over year, your yards per route run and targets per route run against man and zone coverage isolated down. So look, man, we've been so wrong. I tried to predict the fall of Keenan Allen. I was wrong. I tried to predict the fall of Mike Evans. I was wrong. So I spent a lot of time researching age cliffs this year. And basically, if good wide receivers are still playing, they're not going to give you what they gave you when they were 27. But I think we all know that. But that doesn't mean they can't still be valuable in fantasy. And it would not surprise me at all if Tyler Lockett's a wide receiver 2 this year.
And Tyler Lockett is like the definition of old man game. Like, he's not winning on raw speed. He's not winning.
But he still has enough because he started off with so much.
Yeah. But and that's the thing, though. It's just like he is just such a technician at his craft and getting wide open and kind of being that safety blanket. Another reason I really like Tyler Lockett here, he's a guy I've been drafting quite a bit of, is I think there's just a huge discount on Geno Smith this year. And I can't understand why he is so cheap. Geno Smith is like exactly what I'm looking for in a QB2, a guy that I can get in one of the final rounds of the drafts that has high weekly upside on a good offense. I'm expecting this offense to even take a step forward in the passing game with the addition of Ryan Grubb there. So I like Tyler Lockett mainly because
Geno's my second most drafted quarterback at 18%.
Love it. All right. Well, I like when my takes are corroborated by smart minds like you, Dwayne. Coming up with a few picks
No,
here.
same, man.
We,
Lockett's
we
20% for me, so he's my 5th most drafted wide receiver.
all right, yeah. That's
And man, it's just at a spot where the wide receiver, you mentioned it. I mean, you're on the brink, man. You're on the brink of how we're about to
these are
drop
the
down
two
to
other
this
guys.
other level. Yeah.
These are the two other guys that I like getting because I feel like there's Rashid Shaheed and Khalil Shakir. I like both of them as well. Shaheed just went off the board well ahead of ADP. Khalil Shakir is still out there. But yeah, after that, you're looking at Joshua Palmer and Mike Williams, and it gets really, really gross really quickly. So here we are coming up in just another pick here. Cortland Sutton, James Conner, Tony Pollard, Jaden Daniels, Trey Benson, Caleb Williams, Javonte Williams, Khalil Shakir, Devin Singletary. This is a spot where I'm usually hitting running back, but where's your head
Yeah,
at?
I think running back is the value here. Cortland Sutton's not bad here either if you want one more wide receiver. But with our build, I think we need to look at the running back. What tight are any of those tight ends still there? Or did they go? Njoku and
Yeah, they're all gone.
yeah. So Goddard's the best value at tight end this year, so he'll come back. Yeah, I would take one. I would take one of the backs. I
like
lean
Pollard.
Pollard, man. On this team. Because we just went with like the old man and Mixon and like doubling down on another old dude at James Conner. Like the one problem with that is like when you're trying to win all the money at the end of the year, like how healthy are these guys? And so I try to kind of mix my exposures between and think about age a little bit, especially at the running back position.
I think when you have two guys like this, Joe Mixon and Tony Pollard, this opens us up later in the drafts in rounds 16, 17, 18 to take some of those high ceiling rookies. This is where we take Kamani Vidal and we take Rasheen Ali and these guys that have no projectable volume whatsoever, but could stumble into a role late in the year where they could be a Keaton Mitchell type of player that kind of surprises us, comes out of nowhere and gets some points down the stretch. So, Devon Achane is obviously the RB1 here, high ceiling, high floor, all that. Joe Mixon and Tony Pollard both project for early season workload. We don't know if they're still going to have that in week 17, but this is the perfect type of build to sprinkle in some high upside rookies.
Yeah, for sure. And man, my most drafted players at running back are the rookies. It's Marshawn Lloyd, it's Blake Corum, it's all those guys. I'm well over 20%. So yeah, I like that call. So thinking about like this next pick, what's Goddard?
We can go anywhere, man. We can go quarterback.
What is Goddard?
Wide receiver, tight end. Goddard, his ADP is. Oh, he just went. He went the pick after us. Born Loser took him at 103 ahead of ADP.
Dallas Goedert is the most mispriced tight end. Last year, like people got mad at me because I said Dallas Goedert didn't belong in tier 3 of tight ends because he didn't. But now this year, people have overreacted and they're drafting him, too close to names like Dalton Schultz and Pat Freiermuth. So Goddard. Man, I was hoping he would come back. That would have been nice.
Now, I think Schultz is probably overkill on our.
I agree. I don't want you. Yeah, once we made the mix and pick, we absolutely at that point we're finished.
Tapped out on Houston
with the Texans.
I like Freiermuth. I do as a player, but with an ADP of 137.
Yeah, I think we can wait on him, but I'm with you.
Him for
I definitely wouldn't mind getting Freiermuth on the squad. So
we've got Caleb Williams right there, which if we want to get kind of weird and sprinkle in some Bears, we've got can kind of use that with the Tyler Lockett that we drafted. If we want to look ahead at week 17, we've also got Javonte Williams here, another guy who I think is just kind of health away from really breaking out, but that's another kind of risky. Not that he's old.
Who are the other receivers that are available?
Khalil Shakir, who I really like. Adonai Mitchell, Jacoby Myers, Dontavian Wicks a little bit further down the board. Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy would work very well with what we're doing right now. I guess we've only got Achane.
Well, that's still okay. Like,
and I like Jerry Jeudy. He's a guy I'm embarrassed to admit how much Jerry Jeudy I've been drafting this year. But who are these? And then let's take a look at the running back. So again, receivers are Khalil Shakir, Adonai Mitchell, Jacoby Myers, Dontavian Wicks, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Cooks. The available running backs: Devin Singletary, Tajay Spears, Gus Edwards, who just got injured, so we're going to pass on him. Chase Brown, Austin Eckler, Zeke Elliott. Which of those names jumps out to you? 20 seconds on the clock.
I think I like Shakir the most here. He had an 18% targets per route run without Stephon Diggs on the field, so that. It's a small sample again, but like he did show a little bit more. It's an offense that we'll see what they do. last year they turned into a run-heavy offense over the second half of the year, and now they've come out and said, this is Josh Allen's offense. Well, we don't even know what that means. Does that mean you're going to run Josh Allen all the time like you did at the end of last year, or does it mean we're going to go back to the throwing the ball all the time Bills? So if
Also,
that were to
Bills,
happen,
this feels like one of
Shakir
those
could,
prototypical, like nobody knows what the offense is going to look like, so everybody's just scared off completely and not drafting anybody. And I think that's
which is
silly. Like,
wrong in my
it's the Bills'
opinion.
offense. It's Josh Allen. We want to invest in this offense. I'm willing to throw darts. I don't want to be like overexposed to every single Bills player, but Khalil
Yeah.
Shakir right now is getting drafted as the wide receiver 3 on this team. And you saw last year when Joe Brady took over the offense, Khalil Shakir almost usurped the role from Stephon Diggs. Like they made Shakir a focal point of this offense when Joe Brady took over. So I love that pick. Alfredo and I have been talking about Shakir as a great value all offseason.
Yeah, I think with the Bills, the player obviously I'm the least scared of is to
Kincaid.
go with Josh Allen.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
And it's kind of funny. I've actually heard people say they're fading Josh Allen. I just think it's comical, honestly,
Yeah.
because I think last year what you saw is it doesn't really matter what kind of offense they run. If they want to go run heavy, he's Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
If they want to go pass heavy, he's Josh Allen that we've known for the 3 years before. He's kind of, it's really tough to box Josh Allen out. And he's finished as the number one quarterback for what, four years in a
3
row.
of the last 4. There was that one year he finished as QB2 and Patrick Mahomes threw for 50.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't, it's just tough for me to fade that. And it's so easy to stack the guys with him. And I mean, yeah. All right. So we're up. So not Spears because we've got Pollard.
Yeah. Wicks kind of works.
Dude, I like Wicks.
Yeah. And we already drafted Christian Watson. So this just kind of doubles our exposure to, I don't know about you, but I sure expect the Packers to be a good passing offense this year.
And this, honestly,
this basically taps us out at wide receiver. This is 1, 2.
The other option is
4,
if we want to go. Did Corum go? Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, Corum is already off the board.
All right.
Yeah,
so we could be done, honestly.
He's been a climber, yeah. And
the one problem with drafting this many receivers early is it it could box out like your backdoor stacks if we miss on Geno.
I'm okay with it. Here's what I'm looking at already. I already mentioned his name once. We've already got the big Houston Texans stack. And if we're looking ahead to week 17, round 18, we got Rasheen Ali sitting there. And if Rasheen Ali goes, we've got Keaton Mitchell to fall back on. So even if we're not getting, Bateman is another guy who, he'd make
Bateman's moved up too much, but I don't mind making if there's a team where I'm going to make the bet on Bateman, it's this one.
Right. Exactly.
So I try to think of things that way.
I'd be okay with the 7 wide receivers that we have right now. If we want to sprinkle in a late round wide receiver 8, I don't think it'll hurt us too much, but we are definitely trending towards a 3 tight end build. I'm thinking that's where we're going to end up here.
Yeah,
but if there's one spot that I want to be overweight at, it's wide receiver. I'm A-okay being overweight on wide receivers here. And we've got.
So let's look at tight ends. Like, look at the queue. We got to talk about this.
Yeah. So Dalton Schultz, we don't want that. TJ Hawkinson is another guy that I'm kind of out on. Cole Kmet, again, we talked about maybe adding Geno late. So if we get that Geno Lockett stack with Cole
Musgrave works.
Yeah, Musgrave works. I like both of those guys. And again, it seems like this draft room is going hard at tight end. So, we'd have to reach for both these guys. Our next pick is 139, ADP of 145, and ADP of 153.
Ty Chandler works on this team because we've got the 2 Green Bays.
Every time we've tried waiting on a tight end, hoping they'd come back, though they don't.
They don't make it, yeah.
Our next pick is 150. Maybe we get Luke Musgrave. I think that would.
And Hunter Henry is also fine. Like, he doesn't correlate with anything, but at this point, you can't be super picky.
Yeah, and I think Hunter Henry has a very realistic shot to lead the team in targets. If anything, maybe he's playing second fiddle to Pop Douglas, but I think that Hunter Henry is going to get his in New England. So let's look at the running backs here. I think the ideal pick with these next 2 would be Cole Kmet and Luke Musgrave. Even if we're heading towards a 3 tight end build, those are 2 that I'm pretty confident in. Cole Kmet probably needs an injury ahead of him on the depth
chart. I like Charbonnet a lot here because we go with potential Geno later. Ty Chandler, I love.
Yeah, I think so. I'm guessing you're pretty out on Eckler and Chubb.
I'm not. No, I think honestly, I think it's funny that people are calling their shot on Brian Robinson. Like, I just don't.
Really?
I like Brian Robinson, but the camp stuff around how suddenly he's catching bullet routes and all this crap. Like, come on, man, give me a break. Austin Eckler was hurt last year. He's going to be I almost guarantee you he's going to be the receiving back. And I honestly think Austin Eckler has a higher ceiling than Brian Robinson, just because if it worked out to where Robinson went down, we've actually seen Eckler handle a full-time role, and volume is everything. He's going to get more targets than Brian Robinson ever would. and he can take the same workload as far as carries go. I like both guys, so I draft both.
So we got to keep.
I would go.
We might be kicking the tight end down the road.
Yeah, you have
here.
to. You go Charbonnet here.
Yeah, all right. That's where I was too. As much as I really think we need a tight end, getting Charbonnet a full round below ADP with this build, dude. Charbonnet.
Yeah,
I love this guy as a prospect, man. Pass catching.
He's
ability.
my third most drafted running back. So it's my in my top 5 are all rookies, and then there's Charbonnet, a year 2 guy, and it's the same bet.
Those are the best bets. Rookies in year 2 running backs are the best bet you can make. Last year, how many people won their leagues with Zamir White and Ty Chandler as their starting running backs? I mean, these guys, we just see them break out as the season goes on, and especially with the build that we have. We talked about it. Those are the guys that we need, those high ceiling guys. We've got guys who project for early season workloads. Something happens to Kenneth Walker, all of a sudden we've got another top 10 running back on this team.
Yeah, stacked with Lockett. Now, I would love to get Komet coming back, to be honest. If we got Komet or here,
I'd be happy with either of those tight ends personally.
I like the Komet one just because we've been setting up the game stack with Seattle. Now, I mean, we could obviously always come back later with a Roshan or a Khalil Herbert, to complete out the stack. The last passing game piece is Komet, and we need the tight end. So I would like it. I agree with you on Musgrave. The Ty Chandler pick, though, is also the other really good one because of what we've done with Minnesota. Because of what we've done with Green Bay.
Yeah. So, I mean, all 3 of these were still, how many picks do we have out?
And I love Ray Davis, too. He's in my top 5 drafted players.
7 picks out, and there's 3 guys that I think we really want here. We'll go ahead and throw Ray Davis in as well. We already did Khalil Shakir. Justin Herbert goes off the board.
I would throw Hunter Henry over there just because, we got to, at some point, we just have to just have to take one.
And, there's so many times where I do I'm just going to go around 16, 17, 18 tight end.
I think it's pretty tough, honestly. I think that's pretty tough this year.
Yeah.
Last year it
worked. Last year, you'd get Hunter Henry in round 18, and he ended up being, I believe, a top 10 tight end at the end of the year. This year,
he was fine.
You don't see that value there.
Yeah, he was fine last year. Yeah, it's going sooner this year. So it's just tougher. There goes Bateman. I don't want round 13 Bateman. I'm not going to lie, guys.
Crazy.
The dude's 900 routes into his career. He's got a 17% targets per route run, a yards per route run of under 1.5. Those are not even wide receiver 5. That's not even a wide receiver 5. So, and then people are like, well, he had OBJ last year. Well, I mean, he couldn't beat out OBJ or Nelson Aguilar for a full-time role. Guys, that's bad. That's not good.
I like Rashad Bateman. And when I was getting him in round 17,
I
loved it. Yeah, but now seeing him move all the way up, going ahead of some of these guys is crazy to see.
Nice pick on Komet. Way to go, Kluge.
Peak offseason. Yeah, I'm glad that we were able. And a lot of times you do see that too. Like early in the draft, everybody's going tight end hungry and they're reaching for their tight ends. And then what that can do is open up tight end value later because so many guys have reached on tight ends earlier. They don't want to get more tight ends early. So, I mean, at this point, who knows? Maybe we get lucky and get Luke Musgrave with our next pick too. We've got 4 guys queued up here that I like.
Where are we on Geno? I would keep an eye on him too.
I just looked. His ADP is 174, so we'll throw him in the queue just so we don't forget about him.
Yeah, that's
Geno, man. If we could pull that off and get Geno as a QB2 here, this is just
Geno's funny. Sometimes he falls, but
I got
somebody's drafted DK. Somebody's drafted
208 the other day. 208. Geno fell to me at 208 last night. Could not.
It's kind of predictable. Like if you look at the board right now and you see who has DK, if they've already got 2 quarterbacks, and if the guy that has JSN already has 2 quarterbacks, like you're locked. Like you can just let it go. If they have 1 or 0, then and if you really want Geno, then you've got to think about going ahead and taking him a little bit ahead of ADP. So
the DK drafter has Justin Herbert and Anthony Richardson, so we can kind of expect that he probably is going to be out on Geno. Let's see if we can find JSN on the
He won't take Geno ahead of ADP most likely. Now there are more 3 QB drafters than ever. Right. So
JSN drafter has Lamar Jackson and Tua Tagovailoa. So
we're good. Let him go.
We're primed for a Geno free fall here. We're not going to take him at pick 163. We've still got Luke Musgrave and Hunter Henry sitting here in the queue, and we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Khalil McLaughlin is a bring back on Chase.
Jaleel McLaughlin is my most drafted running back so far. You don't have to tell me on Jaleel McLaughlin.
Because now he's getting to the point where
he's going to start getting too expensive. Yeah. Thanks to shout out Cecil Lammy with the Audible. I'm sure you saw that report the other day.
Yeah, and Cease has made some, I will say,
dude, he was the Jaleel guy last offseason.
Cold nuts calls on the Broncos over the years that I have listened to, and been able to make a lot of money off of. And I love the fact that he's willing, and he'll tell you not all these takes are going to be right. It's still early. But I will say, like, if someone willing to put it all out there on the line and make bold calls around what they're seeing at camp, like, no one beats Cecil.
Yeah. And I remember last year, Cecil was out here talking about Jaleel McLaughlin, and every single time he'd mention him, the comments and the live show would just be, "Who the hell is Jaleel McLaughlin?" Like, nobody was buying what he was selling, but he can play. So I like that. So, man, I think the no question pick here would be Luke Musgrave if
he's here.
Right? We've already got Christian Watson. We've already got Dontavian Wicks. We want to continue investing in this Packers.
And I think if Musgrave is gone, I think you go ahead and just grab Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I think we'll wait on
because we're gonna need 3, and I want Geno goes there. Like that's stupid. Sorry, whoever you are, drafter. Is that even a guy that has a Seahawk?
Yeah, no, he doesn't. I mean, we looked ahead. Maybe
does he have a bunch of Bears?
He has no Seahawks, no Bears.
He just doesn't know what he's doing.
Taking Geno ahead of ADP, and that's the wild, wild west of these drafts. Sometimes it happens.
Sorry, we love all of you guys.
Yeah, that is disappointing, though. That is disappointing. Shame on us to think that we could, look.
Hey, that's how you have to play it, though. You gotta play it out, and like I brought it up because.
Wait, did I misunderstand you earlier? Did you say logarithmic? Because I thought you said logarithmic.
No, logarithmic.
See, I heard logarithmic, and that's why I laughed so hard.
That would be a good one too.
Yeah. All right.
Logarithmic does, man targets per route run against man coverage is a little bit of a logarithmic.
that's why I laughed so hard at the time. Well, at least we've got our 2 tight ends. And again, tight ends were going early. We got Cole Kmet 5 picks below ADP,
and we'll get one more.
We got Luke Musgrave a whole round below ADP, so that does help the sting a little bit. But now we have to figure out what we're doing for our QB2. Tua's off the board. We've already got Stroud.
I'll give you something here.
Hate Levis.
Yeah, I don't hate Levis. I don't know of the backdoor. Look, show me the quarterbacks. Watson's there.
There's nobody that works in our build. I mean, Deshaun Watson,
Baker Mayfield, you can get the Jalen McMillan stack later. Will Levis, you could get your 3rd tight end and
Chig. And we've already got Pollard.
Bryce Young, you could go Jatavian Sanders that would give us an upside 3rd tight end.
Right.
I mean, we can't draft Taysom Hill because he's a quarterback, so we can't with Derek Carr. The other one I like, is Drake May with a Javon Baker.
Yeah.
Dude, Justin Fields.
I don't hate him as kind of
I like him as QB3. The problem at QB2, but I was just saying he works with the Seattle stuff.
Let's talk through this one because our Q just got absolutely depleted. We're on the
I like Sanat as the problem is he kind of messes up your potential bring back later with one of those quarterbacks.
He does, but a high upside tight end. This feels awfully reminiscent.
What are we at? Show me your running backs again.
Running backs, Bucky Irving, Chuba Hubbard, which Bucky Irving opens us up for Baker if we want to do that. Braylon Allen, Roshan Johnson.
Chuba opens us up for Baker too. So I'm good with either. I like Bucky Irving, though, as the guy that would be coming on later.
Make a call. 5 seconds. Sinnott,
Bucky
Irving, Hubbard.
Irving. Yeah, just because our backdoor stacks are mostly tight ends now.
That's what we need is a high upside rookie running back in this build. So that works out.
So show me let's look at the QBs real quick again, Dave.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start throwing some of these guys in that'll work with us. Will Levis works for us. Bryce Young works for us.
We could make Drake May work with a wide receiver. We could go Javon Baker.
Yeah, which that would be, we've already got 7. So that would open us up for a wide receiver 8. We got to remember we've only got 3 picks left here. So this is when we got to start strategizing a little bit. I think Stroud is a strong enough QB1 that I'm okay with Levis or Bryce Young if we get one of those 2 guys, just doing a 2 quarterback build. Would like to sprinkle in another tight end here if possible. I think the best possible.
I think optimal is if you get Will Levis and Okonkwo, right? Or you get Bryce Young and Jatavian Sanders, which is why we kind of passed on Senate, past ADP there.
Yep. So let's throw Chig and Sanders in here because I think that is what we want. Then we get our QB2, then we get a high upside tight end 3, and then we can just kind of take value at running back.
Tennessee plays Jacksonville. Bryce Young will be playing Tampa, which we just took Bucky.
Yep.
So I kind of like the Bryce Young Sanders. And I kind of like Sanders as just this, as your third tight end and a 3 tight end build, and you're looking for that late season upside. Honestly, he could be a very similar pick to what someone just took in Sanat. A guy that by the end of the year, and look, it's a weak tight end room. I mean, I love a good, Tommy Tremble's joke, but I mean, it's Tommy Tremble. So I think we're probably good. We know Ian Thomas isn't good. So and there goes
and we see that all the time where
Okonkwo.
these rookies connect in the offseason. Like we see it time and time again, where 2 rookies taking the field together, they get those reps together in rookie mini camp, and before we know it, they end up surprising us a little bit. Or wait, never mind. What am I talking about?
So I do like Roshan. I like Bryce Young. I think I like Sanders. I like everything that we've got.
Levis and Okonkwo both just went. Somebody stole our idea at the 15-16 turn, and that quarterback tight end stack. I found myself doing that a lot last year, where I was like, oh, Bryce Young and Hayden Hurst. That's what's going to take me to the promised land this year.
I saw Luke ask, "Are you guys off Tracy?" I'm not necessarily off Tracy. I just think about the goal.
Yeah. If I had, which I've drafted Anthony Richardson is my most drafted.
Braylon Allen can go in the queue. We do have Khalil Shakir, and I like Braylon Allen anyway.
So I think right here it might be pulling the trigger a little bit early.
I think you got to, though, if you want to stack these.
Bryce,
I think you got to go Bryce and then come back with, we can see what the value is, but probably go ahead and grab Sanders too. I mean, if you absolutely got boxed out on Sanders, like you could come back with a Mingo or something like that, to go with Bryce Young. But you said, I mean, people say they hate it, but it was a terrible offense, and I mean,
it was.
He did earn targets at the end of the year, so I'm not as out on Mingo as some people. Like if something happened to Adam Thielen, like he could be okay.
I was very overweight on Mingo last year, and
I was too.
Find myself going right back to the well, drafting a ton of Xavier Legette this year. So hopefully they can finally. It seems like they've been looking,
and they're very similar guys.
Right?
Late breakouts, were never complete players. Legette is more gadgety, I would say. Now in his final year, in his 5th year, like he balled out up and down the field, against SEC competition. So you got to give Legette that. His biggest season was better than any biggest season Mingo ever had. So
yeah. Well, we'll hope that Sanders makes it back to us here. And if Sanders does make it back to us, which I expect he does, we've got a lot of running backs that can fit in this build. Right now, sitting in the queue, Roshan Johnson, Deonta Foreman, Keaton Mitchell, Rasheen Ali, all guys that I'm okay taking here. So let's see. We just got to hope that, if Sanders gets sniped here, then we're on.
I mean, if people leave Chuba too, and if you have him with Bryce Young and the tight end, that's
my gosh, I didn't even realize he was still available. Yeah, we're moving Chuba atop the queue.
And people,
I almost wonder, do we move Chuba ahead of Sanders here and hope that Sanders falls to us in round 18?
I would be down with that, because I'll be honest, yes, I would.
Then we're still getting the stack.
I would do that, and there's there's other tight ends that are in the same range as Tavion. Like we could get
Jonnu that we can mix with Achane. There's a lot of options if it doesn't work out.
There's Theo Johnson if you're just wanting a young potential late season splash tight end. Yep, I'm with you.
Yeah, Chuba would be a great value here. And he's a guy who I got to be honest, I haven't drafted a ton of. Jonathan Brooks has been a primary target for me in just about every single build this year. I feel like, the sky's the limit for him, especially if he's ready week 1. But if he's not ready week 1, or if something happens to him, we know Miles Sanders probably isn't the guy. Chuba does have a pretty high ceiling in this offense, especially if we expect Dave Canales to inject just a little bit of explosiveness here. So, that's an easy pick for us. And that works with us.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I love drafting with somebody else.
We reached a few spots here for Bryce, but I feel like the half round reach for Bryce is almost negated by the 2-round value that we just got on Chuba.
Yes. Yep. I like it.
All right. Now we just got to sit back and let the draft do the rest of the work for us.
Other tight ends I like. Gesicki's not the worst. We do have Chase.
Going back to the well again for the 5th year in a row. I can't help
I don't hardly ever draft.
It's going to happen one of these years.
Gesicki, I don't think is actually good, but I'm just, for the sake of the way we built our team, Theo Johnson and Greg Dulcich are the other two. A lot of people like Colby Parkinson. My worry with Colby is by the time it's time to win the league, Tyler Higbee's back and it's a kind of a gross rotation. He's not going to be the starter when you're trying to win all the money.
Is Daniel Bellinger a guy that you have? I know you
Potentially,
said
I
Theo
draft him a little
Johnson.
bit. Like I've
Yeah,
leaned to Theo Johnson, but I admit to not having. I have no clue. It could be either one of those dudes. Like it
yeah.
really could. So
No, I feel like so many times when you're sacking, you want the wide receivers first, and then you wait for the quarterbacks to fall to you. But like I said, Anthony Richardson is my most drafted quarterback so far. And I think the thing that I really love about drafting Anthony Richardson is how many giants you can just like sprinkle into your build in the 16th,
so easy.
17th, 18th round. Yeah, whether it's Tyrone Tracy,
What's
Theo
funny though is when
Johnson,
we
Daniel
think back
Bellinger,
on that
Wandale
statement,
Robinson.
and we're
Yeah.
like, "Oh man, we loved him because we could stack all. We hate the Giants. We could stack all these
Yeah.
giants into our build."
But man, it's
Price is everything, man. His price is price. What's not
oh,
everything,
Jatavian
but it
Sanders went off the
makes it
board
work.
at
That's okay.
1803. So um
On this build, I like going with a rookie like Theo. Like we've got the two kind of old veterans that can rotate between the two. And there's not a veteran that's sitting here that makes me feel good enough. Now, you could
well, we
talk me
won't have
into
a ton of
Juwan
time.
Johnson. I don't think Juwan Johnson's missing a season. Juwan Johnson's
Fair.
gonna miss time.
We'll throw him in the queue. We'll throw Tucker Kraft in there as well, even though we've already got
We're on the
Musgrave.
clock.
Yeah, so you make the choice here. Mike Gesicki, Theo
I
Johnson,
go
Greg
Theo
Dulcich,
Johnson.
Theo Johnson. All right. That's good. He's a guy that I haven't drafted at all yet. Not because I have like anything against him. I just find myself looking at other spots in round 18. So always happy when somebody talks me into somebody that I have no exposure to. I got to be honest, I don't know a ton about Theo Johnson. He's a guy that kind of flew under the radar for me during draft season. Trying to remember where he got picked. Was he a round 3 pick?
4.
Round 4?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I gotta go back and double
probably
check.
fighting an
Round 4.
uphill
So
battle
he's
there, but
they thought he might, creep into round 2, round 3. So he's he's an athletic freak.
yeah.
He never was a huge target earner in college, so he's definitely got red flags on him. But when you go back and you look at the kind of tight ends that have managed to break out at the NFL level that weren't big time target earners in college, they look like Theo Johnson.
Yeah.
So the athletic profile does matter more for tight ends. So there's a chance there, and it's just a weak tight end room. So I think the Giants season will probably be over by like week 6.
Yeah.
So I think there'll be a good chance we get to see some Theo Johnson late in the year. That would be my thesis on him.
Well, let's go ahead and break this team down because
Good.
I'm a fan of it, man. Like when you get Devon Achane falling to you in the middle of the 3rd, and then you get Tank Dell falling to you in the middle of the 4th, I don't want to say you can't mess it up, but those types of values to start the draft make it pretty easy. So we started off here: Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Devon Achane, Tank Dell. We were able to get C.J. Stroud to get that double stack with the Houston Texans. Then we sprinkled in Joe Mixon as well. So we are all in on Houston. I don't know what their like war cry is. I'm sure they've got something. Go Texans. Christian Watson and Tyler Lockett just to beef up that wide receiver room a little bit. And then Tony Pollard is sliding ADP value to us. We got Khalil Shakir almost a round below ADP, which no stacks or correlations with that, but I'm a big fan of Shakir and okay taking him. Dontavian Wicks kind of works with the Christian Watson that we drafted a little bit earlier. Zach Charbonnet works with the Tyler Lockett that we drafted earlier. Really high upside RB3 to go with our, or he was our RB4, right? Yeah, RB4.
Yes, RB4.
So that's what you're looking for with a guy like Charbonnet. Tight end is obviously the weakness in our room here, but getting Cole Kmet and Luke Musgrave is a sliding value. I'm okay with both of that. Bucky Irving fits in well with the running back room that we had. Bryce Sanders and Bryce Young and Chuba Hubbard as a kind of a late backdoor stack that works for us and also works with Bucky Irving. So this is getting creative right here. Rounds 15, 16, and 17.
Yeah, we
Bucky
had
Irving,
to
Bryce Young,
when we
and
missed.
Chuba, but
Yeah, when we missed Geno, we had to get creative and try to, and we got the team and game stack with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we thought about it ahead of time. We set it up. We're like, okay, it could be Bucky Irving here, and we actually, if we talked about Chuba there briefly, and then like you said later, like you can't even believe he's still in the queue, and we still get Chuba as well. So yeah, I think it worked out well. Like the Geno thing was, it is what it is. The other thing, we didn't get a Viking to go with our double. Of the 2 Green Bay, receivers. So I wasn't crazy about that. But our week 17 game stacks are Seattle versus Chicago, as well as Carolina versus Tampa.
Yeah.
And then what else do we have? Do we have oh yeah. I wish we could have gotten
we didn't get a Ravens. Yeah, we didn't get a Ravens player here, but we're still invested enough that I expect the Houston Texans offense to be good. So I'm okay just investing in there, even if we don't have the week 17.
Yeah, it's fine. And like there are runouts where like the Texans just what if they just blow the Ravens out and the Ravens rest their starters? Like, there's all sorts of crap that can happen in this thing when we're trying to project a week
Now let me
17.
throw
So
because it's something I think we would have been able to. Yeah, so looking right here, instead of Theo
we could have
Johnson,
gone Ali.
and that's what I'm thinking, maybe one of those Ravens guys, Devontae Walker, Rasheen Ali,
The,
Keaton Mitchell. Do you think in
the challenge
hindsight
is
maybe
we
that
were
would have been
already
better?
in on 6 backs. When
Right.
we took
True.
Chuba, it boxed out Ali.
Right.
And Chuba at value, I would rather have than Ali, who might not sniff the field at all. Like, that's a possibility. Like, Ali, like, at this point, for all we know, he may not even suit up. Like, there's a lot
Right.
of runouts for him.
And
Now,
I'm okay going 7 running backs, but when I've already invested in Devon Achane and Joe Mixon and some of these earlier running backs,
yeah,
that's not
I
a
don't
build
think
where
you
I
can go
want
6
more running
backs
backs.
once you've invested what we already had
Yeah, 7 running backs is when you
in the
say I'm
first
not
round.
touching my RB1 until round 8 or 9.
Yes, I agree. And even then, I usually don't go 7. I honestly just say, "Hey, these are my bets. My
Yeah,
bets are on
hope
these
they
6,
work.
and it's gonna work or it's not."
Now, one
Now,
other thing I want to talk about real quickly is what we did here at the end of the draft, because a lot of people are going to see this, especially people who aren't like super tuned into these big tournaments. They're going to wonder kind of what the heck happened here in 15, 16, and 17. But these backdoor stacks, man, they can really work out. And this last year is how I ended up with so much CJ Stroud and Tank Dell. Now, of course, they don't always work out. Like I joked around earlier, I also ended up with a lot of Bryce Young and Hayden Hurst and a lot of
yeah,
Mac Jones and Juju Smith-Schuster. These don't always hit, but when they do, when you're able to get a stack like CJ Stroud and Tank Dell in the
it's
final
huge,
rounds of
man.
your draft, it's huge. And maybe Bryce Young and Chuba could be that type of duo this year. Maybe they're not, but that's why you make those bets like that late in the draft.
Yeah, and then, like, the Bucky Irving pick before that was obviously attacking the rookie running backs, which we've
Mhm.
talked about earlier. He's the one right now that goes later, than Marshawn Lloyd and a lot of the other guys. So you get him, and then and we talked about it ahead of time, grabbing Bucky Irving and leaving the door open for the backdoor stack with Bryce Young and Jatavian Sanders. Yes, we didn't get Sanders, but Chuba Hubbard fell to us, and we wanted a 6 running back. So yeah, I thought those last few rounds worked out really nice. It was good talking through them.
Well, Dwayne, as always, appreciate the time, man. This show is so much fun for me. I draft a lot of teams by myself, but once a week I have a really sharp mind on. Just forces me to think outside of the box a little bit, get outside of my comfort zone, kind of talk through some new strategies here. So this is the 51st BBM team that I've submitted this year. I did number 50 last night, so we are on to the second act of the BBM 5 series for the 2024 offseason. Just want to thank you again for the time. Before we log off here, one more time, let everyone know where they can find you on social media, what you got going on at Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you guys can head over to fantasylife.com and you can check out everything. All of the utilization tools, projections are up, rankings are up. We've got a lot of new tools that are in the works that are going to be coming in the near future. I can't share too much about them, but a lot of cool stuff. And then if you want the newsletter, that's absolutely free. You can find me on social media at Dwain McFarland, DWAIN MCFARLAND.
We'll always appreciate the time, Dwayne. Enjoy your
You
trip
too,
coming up
Dave.
here soon,
Thank
and
you, man.
just a lot of off season left. I'm sure we'll hop on a stream again before the season kicks off. For everybody else tuning in, just a reminder that if you are looking to play on Underdog Fantasy, to use promo code Football Guys, where you will get a 50% deposit match with up to $250 in bonus cash. We will be back next week, Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, every single week from now until kickoff. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week.